Today, let's talk about value streams in enterprise architecture. Now, I have talked about value streams and value chains in multiple of my previous episodes actually. But this discussion keeps coming up. I've heard people ask me to talk about value streams multiple times. So I'm assuming that, many of you people out there are working on value streams or are designing value streams or mapping value streams. And that's why this keeps coming up. So I'm going to cover it one more time and I'm going to try and make this easy to understand. Let's see where it goes. So value streams. What is a value stream? That's the first question. Now, one of the things that we do as human beings is we overthink things. Value streams are actually very simple. It's a stream of value-adding activities end to end. That's it. So if I were to bake a cake, for example, then my first step would be to gather all the ingredients. For example, milk, flour, vanilla extract, eggs, etc., butter. Step 2 would be to add the butter, milk, vanilla extract, eggs, etc. to the flour. And then the third step would be to stir it, mix it well so that it comes to the right consistency and so on and so forth, right? So that is the various value-adding steps in a stream of value, right? That's value streams. As simple as that. Now, I understand that this example has been given multiple times in multiple podcasts and it's been beaten to death. So let's take a slightly more relatable example, right? Slightly more enterprise architecture-y type example. So in my previous episode, I gave the example of recruitment and I'm going to try to give the same example one more time and then we'll see if we can do a case study of why we need to do value streams. So recruitment, right? How do we do recruitment in an organization? So one of the core business functions is going to identify a position. That's how it starts usually. That let's say IT department requires a project manager. And the simplest example really, right? The IT department requires a project manager, or IT department is a little bit vague. Let's say the business function, or let's say the infrastructure services organization within IT requires a project manager. So what they're going to do is they're going to create a job description and a job position. So they have to basically raise a request and a position is created in the system, whatever system that you're using. For example, we use Workday. Workday is a SaaS software that basically provides HR type services and you can look it up. We create a request in Workday to create a position, right? And then we describe the position, its level, its expected responsibilities, expected qualifications, expected experience, and so on and so forth. Once we create this, so this is the first step in the value stream of activities. And then the second step is the P&O department looks at this position, either gets in touch with us to understand the position better or starts looking for resumes. And then the third step would be to post the job description on LinkedIn or what have you, and then collect resumes. The fifth step would be to filter resumes. The sixth step would be to get in touch with the business function to start the interview process and so on and so forth. So this is a value stream. Now this sounds very much like a business process, doesn't it? So what is the difference between a value stream and a business process? Because they sound very similar to me. To be very honest, there isn't much difference. Value streams are a little bit abstract. Business processes are more specific. And I am talking to you from an enterprise architecture tooling standpoint. So when you're trying to map all of this together, like if you're trying to create a value stream, and if you're trying to create a business process in a enterprise architecture tool, what would be the difference? And I'm also talking to you from a terminology standpoint. If you really ask me, you can use it interchangeably, right? Value stream and business processes, you can. But the tool will not allow you to do that, right? Tools will force you to sort of add a few. Coming back to the definition, business processes are more specific. They will mention the name of the business function. They'll mention the cost center ID perhaps, or the business function head, who's accountable for what, etc., etc. It gets into the details of how exactly the business process needs to be executed. It's more physical in nature, right? Value streams are more abstract. The idea is to understand the value-adding activities and how, in a sequential order, they fall. In fact, value streams could become the foundation of the business process. So you design a value stream first, understand the various steps, the various value-adding activities, and that lead to a outcome, which becomes the actual business value. And then once you have the value stream, you can take a look at it and say, okay, now I'm going to design a business process. And then, get into the nitty-gritty of who's the business function owner, cost center, etc., etc. And the tool forces you to do this, right? The tool forces you to stick to the appropriate terminology. So when you're designing a business process, it'll ask for more details when you're designing depending upon the complexity of the tool and the sophistication of the tool, of course. I'm not talking about diagrams here. I'm talking about enterprise architecture tools that will force you to feed in information that are required by a business process. Value streams will be more abstract. So that's primarily the difference between a value stream and a business process. In common terminology, you can use it interchangeably if you want to. But from a tooling standpoint, it needs to be very specific. Now, how to design value stream, if you want to know that, then, I've done it in one of my previous episodes. I'll try to see if I can find the link to that episode and, gets into the details of exactly how, or I will also post a few articles by Open Group. You can find more details there. But in case if you really want me to concentrate on the details of value streams and how to build it and what are the inputs and what are the outputs of a value stream and so on and so forth, let me know and I'll do another episode dedicatedly for that. Now, we've looked at value streams and we've looked at the difference between a value stream and a business process. Okay, so there are a couple of things that you need to understand about value streams. 4 specific things. One is a trigger. A value stream is triggered by an event. For example, in the recruitment example, the value stream is triggered by the creation of a position in Workday, right? Or creation of a position. In Workday would become a business process again, right? We're getting more specific. Value streams don't have those specifics. They are more abstract. So when you create a new position, or when you feel the need of a new position and you inform somebody about, you need a new position which looks something like this, that becomes the trigger of a value stream of activities that will eventually end up in you hiring a person, right? So there's a trigger. Second is there are stages in it. Each stage adds more value to the overall value stream, which eventually leads to an output. Third is there are inputs and outputs in each stage. So first stage would be creating a position. Second stage would be understanding the position perhaps, or third stage would be looking for resumes or making a job posting on public websites and so on and so forth. Each step will add value to the overall value stream. And the fourth, and obviously it will be an output. It will also have outputs as well, right? So there is an input from the previous stage of the value stream, which it takes and processes it. And then there is an output of each stage, which becomes an input for the next stage. And then you analyze and you optimize. You look for areas of improvement. So when I'm doing this value, very interesting question, right? Why am I doing value streams at all? Right? It's a very important question. We understand what the value stream is, but why are we doing it? So majority of the times it's to analyze and optimize, right? There is something that is happening, like recruitment. We are going through a number of steps. Question is, can we optimize it? Can we make it better? Right now, for example, the industry standard for hiring a person, starting from the creation of the job position till the person gets hired, is 3 to 6 months, right? 4 to 6 months, because there is a 3-month notice period, and you consider 1 month for the hunting part, and then you have the 3 months notice period, and then look. So about 4 months is the turnaround time, from the point where you create a position to. Now, let's say it's 6 months. Sometimes the hunting time takes more time. And you want to reduce it to, let's say, 3 months or 4 months, right? How do you do that? How do you improve your process so that the turnaround time gets better? for that, you need to analyze the existing process. You need to understand how we are doing the recruitment right now. How are we creating a position? How are we informing? How is the interaction between the recruitment team and the business function that is creating the position? How is the job hunting going? Are they actively engaged, or is the P&O going and looking for people outside? How many interactions are required? How many rounds of interviews are happening, right? What is the offer process? How do you make the offer, and so on and so forth? How do you understand what the requirements of the candidates are, right? And how do you make the offer? How do you make sure that the candidate actually joins after they have accepted the offer, and so on and so forth? So you need to analyze this. And for that, you need to get into the details of the value stream, right? Understand the value stream of the recruitment process so that improvements can be made. You analyze it and you optimize it. You make it better. That's the whole point of doing value streams, right? Otherwise, what's the point? We don't document anything in enterprise architecture for the sake of documenting. Remember that. Every single documentation that we do within enterprise architecture has to be with a purpose, has to be with a objective, has to be usable. We create documents, nobody looks at it. There's no point in creating that document. We need to be 100% sure of who our stakeholder is for the documentation that we are doing. Why are we doing the documentation? And is that documentation going to add value or not? So do value streams only if it adds value to the overall business, right? So 4 things which are there in value streams. There is a trigger point. There are value-adding stages. There are inputs and outputs for each stage. And then obviously there is analysis and optimization, right? These are 4 things which are very, very specific to value streams. Now, I've already talked about why we do it. And, there are a number of benefits that value streams bring in. It improves efficiency of the business overall. It helps us in building efficient, lean, effective business processes, right? And then obviously there is a strategic alignment as well, because when you're designing the value stream, when you're studying the value stream and you're designing the value stream, you look at the organizational strategy of what is it that we are trying. Now, recruitment is a very simple example I gave you, right? Every organization has recruitment, but that's not the only example, right? We have other business use cases where value stream mapping and value streams can be analyzed to make the overall business processes more efficient. And we have to align with the overall organizational objectives and overall strategy. So value streams help us in that strategic alignment of the lower level processes and the higher level strategy. We'll take a quick example. So let's take the example of a hospital. All right. Let's say that there is a small town and the number of people in that small town is 5,000 people. And there are a couple of hospitals there. Let's take the example. There is one hospital there. And the number of sick people that come into that hospital is less initially. And over a period of time, because of the population increase, because of urbanization, people moving into that town from nearby villages, or because of an advent of a pandemic or some sort, there is a sudden increase in the number of people coming to the hospital, right? There's a lot of sick people, and what's happening is that the wait time for each patient has increased drastically. So there is a strategic decision taken that we need to improve the efficiency and speed at which the hospital provides healthcare to the patients, which means we have to reduce the patient's waiting period. And how do we do that? The organization needs to work towards this. So what a value stream mapping can do is they can analyze the trigger point. The trigger point in this particular case is the patient walking into the hospital, and analyze each step of the entire process of the patient entering the hospital, the patient filling out a registration form, the patient either going into an emergency or, inpatient or what have you, and so on and so forth. So analyze each and every value-adding stage in this entire process, and then understand the inputs and outputs of each stage. So if the patient needs to be providing some information in the form, for example, or the form becomes the sort of input for that particular stage, and then form is submitted to a counter of some sort, and then that counter takes in that form. So the output of that stage becomes the registration form going to and so on and so forth. So we analyze each stage in the entire process and then try to understand where there are inefficiencies. Where is the productive periods and non-productive periods? And I don't know whether you've worked with lean or not, but some of the principles of that is try to understand what are the productive value-adding stages in the overall process and what are the times where the stage itself is not adding any value. Like for example, the patient waiting at the counter to submit their form, right? That doesn't make sense. It's non-value-adding, non-productive waste of time. So, and so on. And then once you've analyzed it, once you've analyzed the inputs and outputs of each stage, you've analyzed and optimized all the process, you'll basically try to eliminate all the non-productive wait periods in the overall process and the patient time goes down. So this is how you can use value stream. And then once you have an overall abstract idea of how you can improve the value stream, you can design a more detailed process out of that value stream. And that's how value streams add value to the overall business. I know I've run through this entire thing very, very quickly today, and there's a chance that you might have more questions about it. Once again, if you want me to do a detailed episode of how to document a value stream, although I don't think it's going to be very productive, there are articles about it all over the place, and I'll post a few links to that as well into the show notes. Go through them. I think that should help quite a bit. One exercise that I would like to give you besides reading the article and that is to use artificial intelligence. I've been using artificial intelligence quite a bit lately at work, and when I say use artificial intelligence, I don't mean something complex or building machine learning models and so on. I just mean using ChatGPT or Copilot or whichever LLM you have access to. It could be Google or what have you. And ask questions, right? What do you think happens? Like, for example, take the example of value streams, right? Ask a question to the value stream and do you think it does it make sense, right? How is it different from asking a human being? How is it different from asking a question to enterprise architecture radio, right? Try to find insights out of it and then talk to me about what you think about the subject. So for example, value stream. Let's say that you ask ChatGPT, what is a value stream? And then it gives you an answer. And then you say, how can I use it in I already gave you a recruitment example and a healthcare example. How can I use it in a manufacturing process, for example? That, I want to create a value stream. How does value stream add value to a manufacturing organization? Okay. And read through what it says. And then try to tell me what thoughts does it create in you? What do you think about value streams? What do you think about the manufacturing process, right? What ideas does it generate for you? Because it's very easy to just copy paste stuff from ChatGPT. But trust me, if you do that, people will know. People will understand that, this is not original stuff. Okay. This is something that has been artificially generated. And while ChatGPT and Copilot can add a lot of value in our lives to learn, it's very important for us to maintain our originality and about our original thoughts, right? Maybe my next episode will be about Copilot and artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence is still lagging behind. But what I'm trying to say here is that while there is AI and while there is this synthetic system of generating tremendous amounts of information, true insights, true creativity still lies with humans. I don't mean to compete with artificial intelligence. I'm not saying that humans are better than AI or anything. AI is just a tool that we are using right now. But let's not forget that AI is just a tool that we are using, right? There will probably come a time when AI will be smarter than us and it will surpass human intelligence, artificial general intelligence or strong AI. And then there is the question about what are we going to do? What are humans going to do? Because some people say that AI can do all the productive work and humans can focus on philosophy and art. But then we also see strong AI that does philosophy and art. So where does that leave us? So there are all these, thoughts that are coming into my head these days quite a lot. I'm thinking about it a lot and, I'd like to share it on Enterprise Architecture Radio and I'd like to discuss it on the Telegram group and on the discussion group on LinkedIn. So feel free to talk about it, talk about the stuff that comes to your head. Once again, I would like to remind you that Enterprise Architecture Radio is less a podcast and more a collaboration platform where we ask questions, learn from each other, guide each other, help each other out, but most importantly, have a ton of fun.